Welcome to Unexpectedly Successful. Join us to hear the raw and genuine stories of women founders who have created their own pathways to possibilities. Welcome back to another episode of Unexpectedly Successful, the podcast, serving all you women entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs with inside stories for those out there in the trenches. Today, we walk in this journey with Nancy. Nancy embodies the spirit of a fronteriza, that person who was born in Juarez, Mexico, and then transitioned to living in the US, moving throughout her unique journey in her business. This episode illustrates not only the thrills of entrepreneurship, but how entrepreneurship and business ownership becomes a lifeline, directly supporting the dreams of not just one individual, but an entire family. I can totally relate to that, and I know that some of you also do. Prepare to dive into how business strategies, family dynamics, and sheer determination intersects the world of entrepreneurship with Nancy. Ready for some powerful lessons? Let's roll it out. So Nancy, welcome to Unexpectedly Successful. How are you?
Hello, Griselda. Thank you for the invitation. I'm doing really well. I'm very excited to genuinely share about my journey.
Awesome. And as we were talking earlier, I told Nancy, if you have the option to say the politically correct answer and the most genuine version, let's go with the raw and genuine stories of Nancy. So let's get started. Nancy, a little bit about you. What does it mean to be Nancy for you?
For me, being Nancy, it's a ball of energy. I feel like there's always something going through my head. There's always good vibe and music and conversation. So I would say I'm just very explosive in a good sense.
Awesome. So Nancy, is this always been the case, or have you sharpened that ball of energy throughout the years?
I think it started when I moved to the United States, and I had to break that fear of saying things wrong or not understanding the language, and just having that confidence that it's in me. And I just started, laughing at the little things, and then just having a lot of conversations with my mom where I was like, oh, I just want to grow up and do this. And so I think coming over and just breaking fears just unleash that part of me that has now given me a lot of great friendships and great opportunities, just not being scared of sharing and thinking or even complimenting someone.
Tell us a little bit more about that experience as an immigrant, from moving from one place to the other and having to adapt to the new things, to the unexpected things, to the possibly opportunities, but also the challenges that come from that, Nancy.
I am the oldest of three. I am the only female. And so I consider myself very close to both my parents. We have kept a very close relationship and communication. And I was 11 years old when my parents brought me to their room, and they were talking about the possibility of moving to the United States. So connecting to who I am, it was like, oh, that's awesome. We're going to go live in El Paso. Of course, there was going to be a lot of change. And I noticed that my mom wasn't that excited. But I was just asking questions to my dad, and I was so eager about it. My two brothers, they were young. They were about 6 years old, and the other one was a baby. So one of my brothers, he pretty much lived all his life here in the United States. So coming and making the transition, starting in a brand new school, the first barrier, the language. Because I went straight into full English. I wasn't in a bilingual program. Now that I'm a grown-up and I was a teacher, it was just so interesting to know that how come I didn't go through these evaluations? How come my mom didn't put me in the Spanish? Why did she just threw me in the English? So that was a realization process. Critical thinking questions. Oh my God. Hard. I wouldn't understand. I would try and find keywords that will help me answer those questions, but it was very challenging. Geography class, it was just going into the matter of school. I think that my reading comprehension wasn't there till like I was actually in college that I had to read. So I think for sure it's just understanding the language was the main thing. I am very blessed with my parents that they provided for us, that they allow us to play sports, to take us on vacation. So in a sense of coming to the United States, it was a blessing. It was a choice that they made, but they made the best transition.
It's very cool to hear your story as an immigrant. I am an immigrant, but I came alone as an adult. Just hearing you not only as in retrospect of your story, but then through the lenses of being a teacher and then your own experience, I'm sure that had to be a super interesting evaluation process for yourself.
Yes, definitely.
So Nancy, tell us about what has been pivotal moments other than that change of location where you were doing live, pivotal moments in your life that may have imprinted something for you to be here where you are now.
So remember, I started my story saying my parents bring us to the United States. I go to college. I graduate as a bilingual and special education teacher. I move out to San Antonio, get married, start teaching. So I was living life. I was, enjoying the process, love teaching. But then in 2015, that visa that granted entrance to my parents was not renewed.
Oh my God.
After almost 16 years living in the United States. This is so crazy because the moment that I get hired for the school district, that Friday, that's the same day that my dad gets his visa denied.
Wow.
That same Friday. So it's like I'm calling my brother, like super excited, like dancing, like, I got the decision. And he's like, okay, hold on, wait, like, congratulations, but this is going on. And I'm like, what? So it's just the moment when I was, getting to a milestone, and then my dad's world was like falling into pieces. So that was a big change. But my dad was like, you know what? We're gonna try and figure out what's going on. You can like continue your education, career, your life in San Antonio. You're fine. But 2 years after, 2017, around there, I come to visit my mom for her birthday in a surprise trip. I come and we have a dinner, but I just noticed that my brothers, because at that moment, they both drop out from UTEP because they have to be there opening the auto parts store, getting the merchandise, doing everything. But this is about 8 years ago. So they're like in their early 20s. The youngest one was like fresh out of high school. So
Wow.
that was a big change that I was not aware because I was in San Antonio.
Oh, they had not shared that with you.
Right. And I'm noticing, and then they're going through an argument. I'm like, we never argue. What's going on? Like, stop. And then my brother, he says, you don't even live here. You have nothing to say.
The outsider.
And my husband was present in that moment, in that dinner. So when we're driving, flying back to home, I tell him we need to come back. Like, things are not okay. My parents, they have worked for this all my life. They've sacrificed whatever made changes. They've adapted, and now these two youngsters, they don't even know what's going on.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on either. So I must be present. And I thought I needed to take that leadership role as an older daughter and
Yes.
as a role model to my brothers. Like, we're a team. Like, I'm not over there living
Your own life.
So Julio was able to get a transfer from his work over there.
Julio is your husband.
Yes, Julio is my husband.
Wow.
So he was able to get a transfer for his same position with the company, and that was a blessing. because I didn't want to just make the decision and drag him through my decision. So that happens within those years, and I come to El Paso, and I'm like, all right, so let's get to work. Where do I start? So I think that was a big change.
Wow. So it was not just a pivotal moment for you, but for the entire family, and that you became aware in that moment when you visited. Wow, how interesting. So you as a key part of this family, and then you being away, and then all this changes within the family, and then now you have the need to take care of the family business. And so tell us a little bit more about how your parents became business owners.
Okay, my dad has so always have a heart and an eye for business. So in Juarez, his first business was a refaccionaria. So that's where you buy different auto part, but like the small ones, like the smallest parts that the mechanics use to put the engines and things together.
Like an AutoZone, for instance.
That's a good example. So he started with that one. Another investment he had was a car wash. He was just like, I just want to put a car wash next to the refaccionaria and see what happens. If we can jump into the investment that he did in the United States when the visa was granted to him, it's real estate. So he bought some properties around the El Paso Northeast area and the Eastside area around Lee Trevino. So that was a big change, a big opportunity, but also it brought a lot of challenges because we were going into a brand new industry.
Wow. So multi businesses and multi industries. So sounds like your dad is one of those that a true entrepreneur, that he sees the opportunity, he takes the risk, and just moves forward into what comes from that. So Nancy, how did you see that experience, seeing your parents come from one business to another, has impacted you as a business owner?
When I was a teacher, I knew that I wasn't going to be in the classroom forever. I knew that I wanted to do something for the community or create something that would better. So I was doing a bilingual education, and I wanted to contribute in some way to the bilingual education programs where I was living in San Antonio. And I have a very close friend, and she's also an educator. So we always had very interesting conversations, and we knew that we weren't going to wait to retire. We knew that we were going to do something, or have a development center, or write a book or something. So I feel that was in me already, even though I was in the classroom, but I was only there for 3 years. So coming into the industry, my dad has always said that there's not a difficult question that doesn't have an answer that I cannot find. Because if it exists, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's like if that information already exists, it's out there. You just need to go look for it.
And find it.
Yeah, so it was like if the books are written already, somebody understood the information, and we're all capable of figuring it out. So having that in the back of my head, when I come into the business that he's into here in El Paso, I'm like, okay, answer seeker. I need to find the tools, because I know he's in Juarez. He can barely help me. So why am I going to stress him out calling? So it was just a moment where I had to go on my own and seek those answers.
I love that there is, so in essence, all questions have an answer, and then you just have to become, what you said, an answer seeker. Wow. So, and just be resourceful and find the answer. So how was it? So now we are here where you're back in El Paso with your two brothers, and then taking a higher level of responsibility in this business. Tell us a little bit about that transition, because you were not the business owner, but you were the one responsible for it.
Right. So it was an interesting transition. I was learning the apartment industry while I was learning administration, and a little bit of account, like bookkeeping. So I was working that. I had some office hours at the apartment complex, and then I would go visit my brother and then close the day with him. So I got a nice routine. But then going to finding the answers, I started joining associations. I went to conferences, and then getting into YouTube. That's another very good tool. YouTube and Google, it's there. So now we say, okay, let me Google it. We're so that was just there. And then also the relationship that my dad had built, people were reaching out to me like, hey, we know you're on board. So that was a big help as well, like with the insurance agents and just different lawyers and different things. So I guess just being a willing student and trying to make the best out of it. The universe, I heard this weekend, the universe is taking notes. So it's like she wants to be ready, and the resources were. I'm not saying it was the most sweet transition, because even being there in the office, like asking my brother, like, what is this? Like, how come this is like this if it's supposed to be like this? And we had to have tough conversations within the transition. But it was part of the growing process for both of us, and knowing that I'm not his boss, he's not my boss, we're the team, and he has responsibilities and I have mine. So it has been, since we've had that good communication throughout our years, it was just that moment of like transition that he was going through, where he was struggling. But as soon as we created a structure, everything started flowing very, very organically. Like I never left, kind of.
Wow, that's a cool story. You talked about systems that your dad was used to creating, and now you talk about structure and how you created that structure to make that business a success. And I'll dig into that a little bit further. So tell us, fast forward us to Live Athletics and how this, I love how you put this, to meet personal goals, personalized training, supplements for high performance athletes, weight loss, and running challenges. So what does Live Athletic has to do with real estate and auto parts? Tell us about that, Nancy.
Wow, it's just we have to do it all. So the pandemic brought change. We had to close the auto parts store for about 2 weeks, and I was still doing everything here. And then at the beginning of 2020, coming back to my dad, because like you mentioned, these are not my businesses at the moment, but I'm taking full responsibility. He mentions that he's going to probably sell our property on the northeast of El Paso. So that happens. And then February, and then in March, like the world shuts down.
So he did sell.
He sells the property, and my mom's like, you know what, Nancy, your dad, he has that good sense, and don't get attached to a building. Like, we had it for so long, and that's okay, and it's time to move on. So I have to mention that my mom, she has always been like the behind the scenes, but always being involved in the business, and her insights are always very wise. She won't be saying a lot, but like what she says is like, okay, you're right. So we let go of the business, of the apartment complex. I'm more with the auto parts store, and I joined a fitness community. So as I joined the fitness community, I start like my alert, right? Like, oh, I used to take kickboxing when I was in college. Maybe I can start teaching a kickboxing class here. So the fitness community, it was for nutrition, so the same concept as what I do now, but that's how I got introduced. So that was my happy place. That was my relaxation. That was something that I would come from the apartments and change, and then I would go with the community. So it felt so nice just being active, but helping others do it as well. And then I noticed that there was a business opportunity with with the community. And I noticed that they were going to trainings and personal development. So I started asking questions as in, so how can I get more involved in this organization? And that's when the business conversations, the business opportunities with the fitness community started. The community that my friend had, I noticed that it was her style. And I was like, oh, so if I join, maybe I can create something of my own, something of my interest. So that's when I was like, well, I like running, I like outdoor, and I like exploring El Paso. So maybe we can start with a running community, and we'll see what happens. Like, I was still going with my obligations with the family business, but my mind was already like, I want to have something of my own. I want to create something, because I know my dad, he's like, I respect your decisions, but in the end, you know that it's his business. And then when I would go to conferences or networking events, it's like, so what do you do? And I wouldn't know how to answer. It was like, I work with my dad. So it was just funny, you know what I mean? I still, at this point, like, that's something that I still do, but it was just different to, like, I couldn't find a right answer that I would like to feel professional, you know?
So Nancy, you still are in charge of the auto part
Yes.
store. So the real estate was done with, but then you kept the responsibility of the auto part while you were launching Live Athletics.
We do have one more property, but it's small. It's townhomes. It's 4 of them. It's very calm. Not like the other one that I had. So these tenants have been living with us for a little bit, over 3 to 5 years. So I do the maintenance, I follow, but it's not as absorbent as the other property. And then with my brother, it's, you know how in the pandemic I started working from home, so that has been the thing. Like, I do what I have to do from the store, but I do it at home, here or in the office. So that's still happening. And then in the pandemic, my husband Julio, he gets demoted. He's going through that transition at work, but he's noticing how he's less stressed, how he's still making the same amount of money, and how he's enjoying to plug in with the fitness community. So he was coming to my kickboxing classes. He joined the run club, and he would start talking with people, and, like, you know, just out of his good heart, like, oh, about a running tip, and all of a sudden it was Coach Julio. Like, wow. We finished the year 2020. Getting very involved in the Eastside Nutrition community, and I started volunteering on the weekends. Nobody told me. I just started going after the run club. I would stay there. I would mop here and there. You know, Jim Rohn says, "Leave the place better than you found it."
That's right. That's right.
And if I was gonna be there doing my kickboxing class, I had pride for the place, so I took care of the place, and I made sure that it looked presentable when I was gonna teach my class. And I cleaned the restroom sometimes too. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, they allow me to use the spot. I was gonna treat it as if it was mine or better. And I believe that sometimes we want to see a monetary value in the things that we're going to do or about to invest our time, but sometimes it's beyond that. And I knew that if I was a willing person, that opportunities could happen. And just taking care of the place, taking care of the people. Towards the end of 2020, a conversation came about if I would be interested in becoming the owner of Eastside Nutrition. And I was like,
why not?
Julio has time. I don't have the apartment complex anymore. I definitely want to do this. Let me talk to my dad.
So this question just came, like, in the right time and with the right mindset on your end.
Yes. Yes.
So you said, let me talk to your dad. Is that what you said? For the business strategy.
No, it was more. I said, let me just talk to my dad. She knew I was working with him. So I tell dad, I've been involved in the community. I'm like a little girl, right? I tell you, we're always like this. So I've been involved in the community, and they offer me the nutrition club. And he's like, so tell me more about that. And we were in a phone call for a little bit over an hour. He's like, well, that sounds like a really good idea. As long as you don't
Drop.
or stop doing what your responsibilities over here, I'm with you 100%. And I was like, oh yeah, no, of course. Like, I'm not like quitting on you. I'm just letting you know that I'm gonna be very invested on this, but I will on this new journey, on this new project. But I will still be 100% with you, with my brother, and present. So beginning of 2021, that month, I do like a transition training with the previous owner. Julio is with that transition as well. February 1st, it's our official day at Eastside Nutrition. And by April, Julio officially quits the restaurant.
Wow. So you both have transferred all the knowledge from your background into Live Athletics. And I'm sure customers feel the experience differently because of the mix of what you bring to this place.
So let me just explain a little bit. Eastside Nutrition, it's an actual shop that we have on the east side of El Paso that gave life to Live Athletics. So Eastside Nutrition, it's like where we gather. It's the hub. It's where the team meets. But Live Athletics, it's the community that keeps El Paso active. It's where we go on 5Ks, hikes. We do the triathlon. So those are the two different components of what we do. But it all started at that nutrition shop with the kickboxing classes. And then my mind started like, what if we create a group? And it wasn't just like, oh, one day I'm sitting there like, oh, I should do a run club. No, it was just, with the community and going back to the conversations that you start having with the people that you're surrounding yourself.
Nancy, this is such a unique story as a business owner, because you've been a quasi business owner with your family businesses, but now so what would you answer if I ask you right now, Nancy, what is your title? What do you do?
I'm a wellness coach and a running coach.
And you leave the business ownership outside of that?
Oh my God.
I mean, come
on. Put the whole thing, I'm a business owner. Oh my God.
I own my own nutrition shop.
I have my own nutrition shop. I'm going to work on that next time you see me.
Awesome. Hey, Nancy. So we talked about systems, and then you talked about how Julio, when he became part of the nutrition shop, he implemented systems that he knew about the hospitality industry, right? From this diverse set of businesses that you have been part of, what would you say are the most critical systems that any business owner should have in place for a successful business?
So in case of an operation, for example, in this case, our nutrition shop, I think it's important to know what needs to happen as soon as you open the door and you turn on the light. There should be a structure of steps to follow that if you just write it down and somebody comes and read it, they can follow it and understand what needs to be done before you start operating the shop.
So give us an example. So before a customer walks into Eastside Nutrition, what do you have as a system?
So as soon as somebody opens the door, we say, welcome to the club. So they're like,
nice.
So we acknowledge the presence of the customer. And we have a tablet where they come and check in, and that's a way for us to document ourselves. So if you've never been to the nutrition shop, we'll walk you through the steps, and it's very simple, but it's for us, for the company asks for that specific documentation. Then we if it's their first time, we welcome them to the menu. We make some recommendations. If it's somebody that it's a regular that comes on a daily for them, and they always get the same thing, we're proactive and we start it. But it's you come in, you check in, you start with a tea, and as we're having the tea, we're conversating. I'm starting to get blenders ready with ice. So when they make their decision, we start working on those delicious shakes. So we have meal replacement shakes, but we also have like performance protein. So we have the rebuild for the recovery of the muscle. We also have protein for the development of the muscle. So we start working on those shakes. As soon as they finish their cup, we repurpose it. We pour. As they finish the tea, we repurpose for the shake. And we serve, we take the blenders, rinse them really quickly. If there's like a conversation going on, we give priority to the conversation than to the dirty blender. So we come back and some people are in and out, and then some people like to hang out if it's their lunch break or if they just drop the kids from school. So we have a variety. We know who's on a rush. We try to get them in and out. If I know you're hanging out, well, then I'll drink a tea with you and we'll enjoy a nice conversation.
You know, Nancy, from you describing that, you know your customers. You are aware of their needs and their priorities. Like you said, if some people are in and out, you serve them as quick as possible. If they're just hanging out, then you create that space for the community. I love the awareness of you and your customers, and I believe that's a key element for any aspiring entrepreneur to become knowledgeable about their customers, right? All right, Nancy, I'm going to take a turn here. What has been one of the most challenging moments for you as a business owner, whether right now or in your previous experience for the family business?
I have a very challenging moment from when I started at the auto parts store because I come into the middle of an audit. So we're going through that as well.
IRS audit?
Yes.
Wow. Tell us about that.
So that one was like, okay, what's happening? Okay, the accountant, and we got these letters. We've been working to put everything that's going to be presented by the end of July. Like, okay. So we're running under the clock. We're having to stay after hours. So that's why I'm telling you, it wasn't like a beautiful transition. Like, oh, Nancy's here. No, it was like, what do we have to do? So we started putting the information that was requested, but there was a lot of missing information because my dad had only been in the auto parts store for about 3 years. And he was very old school, like keeping like notes in the notebook and giving discounts. And so he was so new to the auto part industry that the building of a system was barely happening.
Wow.
And then he receives that audit, but he's already in Mexico. So it's us trying to work with whatever he had left. Yeah, of course, we got fined. We got over $50,000 fine.
Wow.
Like, okay, now I'm coming in here, and then we have this fine. Of course, asking a lot of questions, going to the Texas controllers like almost every day, trying because I there was so many questions happening, and then there was this specific gentleman. He was so calm and explained everything so good, and he advised to reach out to Austin and explain the situation and see if the judge would want to work something with our company. So I follow his steps on how to reach the person, what phone numbers to call. And he said, write your proposal so that when they call you, you tell them, this is what I'm able to do. Can I do a payment plan? So we had to build that, and I received the email from the judge, and then he says, okay, I'm going to give you a call this day. See, he calls me, Miss Alcantara, so what's going on? What do you want to do? As soon as he said that phrase, I was like, wow, that's very open to work with us. So he was able to set up a payment plan that was very doable for us. And it was a period of about 18 months that we were doing it. The day that I walk out of that office with everything fully paid. I was like, wow.
Wow, I cannot imagine going, just moving, family decisions and all, and then going through that audit and then being fine at the end, which is stressful on its own.
I don't know that I'm going through a challenge yet with Live Athletics, with Eastside Nutrition, because it's just getting started and everything's new and everything's really fun. We're meeting people, we're connecting in El Paso. So at this moment, Live Athletics is just like blooming in a very positive way. But I am aware, because it would be realistic for me to think that there's not going to be an adversity at some point. So I'm always very grateful for the moments. And just 2 weeks ago, as we're driving to our downtown run, we received some good news. And I was telling Julio, this is success, because there's no like you reach something or like you have to enjoy it as you feel it inside in your heart. Like you get that notice because you don't know what news you're going to get tomorrow.
Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, so it was just like success, it's your mindset and it's fulfilling goals and it's being happy with what you're doing and being grateful for the pieces that put the whole picture together.
I love your energy, Nancy, and I love I mean, you are aware of the challenges, but then the attitude to handle them, it's so important, because you could be gloomy and then be making the moment even worse, right?
Yes,
Which I'm sure you have bad moments, but
working with your husband, that's a big one.
okay, that's a really good point. So tell us briefly, before we go into the last questions, what is it, how is it to work with your husband in the operations of the business? The good, the bad, and the ugly, Nancy. Let it out.
So it was a process of adapting, because when we lived in San Antonio, we had opposite schedules. It was almost to the point where I would joke around with my roommate, like, I'm coming from school and you're leaving. So it was very different. So we come back to El Paso. I have a little bit more of time flexibility. And then we start working together, and it's like, wow, from not seeing you, now like seeing you every day, it was a process. It was getting used to, this is my husband at work, like, because you relax, you're a certain way at home, but then there's also different roles that we take, right? As we're at work, it's a little bit different, more professional, or the conversation. So it was just getting to know him in his like customer service, in his this just him in action. And then, of course, as energetic as I am, I'm also very of strong character. And so sometimes making certain decisions, I couldn't just make them. I had to like, okay, Julio, so what do you think? Or like, oh, you didn't tell me. I'm like, I don't have, or I have to.
I do.
That was different, because over here, working with my brother, it was more like, okay, this is what we're doing because it needs to be done like this. And he'd be like, okay, cool. But with working with my husband and knowing that we're 100%, not 50-50, but we're both 100 and 100%, it was just like, I had to adapt to that. And there was a couple of times where I was like, I'm just going to go take a walk. I'm going to go get the mail. I'll be back, So it was interesting, but no, I think now it's just like a blessing. Like, baby, we're together all day and we talk all day, and about the community, about the family, about, did you see this online? Or we're just always like, I'm always talking. He listens.
That's something important to consider.
Yes. So no, it's been great. I'm very grateful. And as boyfriend and girlfriend, we said at some conversation that it would be cool to like have a business or do something together, a patrimonio together, something for
wealth creation.
Yeah, like a legacy, but we were so young, so it was just like the conversation. And And when we were leaving it, I was like, see, going back, that's success. Like we thought about having something together. It's still in the making, but we wanted it, and it's now becoming our reality.
Nancy, a very important question for this podcast. Were you expected to be successful?
Yes.
Awesome! Tell us, why was that so certain?
Because I've always been positive, outgoing, and I'm not gonna take no for an answer. And if I take the risk, I'm gonna push till the end. And if I have to learn something from that decision, I will. But it's not. I would not consider that it wasn't a success or a moment to remember. Because coming into the family business, it was like, we're gonna fix this. I came with a mission, and we're gonna fix this. And yes, let me tell you to close. This is very important. So at the end of 2018, I applied for my parents' residency. And I turned 2018, I was still hired full-time with them in the company. But I become a business owner. So when we had started the process to get their residency, I had my employee information in file, but it had to be from the more recent years. So now the lawyer was like, okay, so I see here that you're a business owner, so I'm gonna need all the information from your business. And I was like, okay. So talking about the importance of having things done the right way and giving it the respect that it needs to due dates and deadlines. So I provide everything for my business, for the nutrition shop. He was like, okay, good. That's we're gonna turn in that paper. So to conclude the story, at the beginning of this year, my parents get their notice that they have been approved of, and that they're going to have their interview, and that they have to show up at this day at this office to see if they're going to be, granted the residency. And they were.
Congratulations, Nancy. So they're finally back in El Paso.
Yes,
Bravo.
Very. So if you're asking, like, if this was unexpected, it was the mission, to make it possible. So I was just putting this into a whole circle. It's at some point they brought me to the United States and they gave me the best life possible. Then they had to go back, and I was able to help them come back. So for me, that's like one of the best things that has happened as a daughter and as a business owner, and just as a human. Like,
I love that.
Monetary, just them being able to come back to those get-togethers and being together again.
Wow, that's a beautiful end to that dramatic story of Nancy coming back to El Paso. So, in one word, how would you summarize your journey as a business owner in all the capacities you've been in your journey?
Roller coaster?
Roller coaster. We go with that. The last question, Nancy. What words of wisdom do you want to share with my audience, those people who may be on the edge of starting their own business, becoming their own business owner, and they are uncertain? What would you tell them?
I would say that go for it. Do it. Do it with all your heart, with all your energy, with all your focus. If you're going to do it right. Do it for you, not to prove nobody, but you. And if you already know what it is that you want to do, you're already halfway there. Take the action, massive action. Think outside the box. Ask questions. Get engaged. because businesses are made for people, by people. We can never grow something alone. My dad would always say another thing, like, if you're going to do it right. And in karate, they tell us this phrase: winners never quit, quitters never win, and I choose to be a winner.
I love it. I love it, Nancy. I love it. I thank you so much for your insights, for being vulnerable, for sharing these moments through your journey that some of them, I'm sure you had this knot in your throat and like, let me take a breather here. I really appreciate your insights, Nancy, and I am so excited about what the next part of your journey as a business owner will be, in addition to being a coach. And for those people who may be in the area or interested in getting connected with you, Nancy, can you share how they can contact you, find you on social media?
Yes. So we have the Instagram pages where you can find us at Eastside Nutrition 915. We have the Live Athletics, which at Live Athletics, and we spell it with a number 3, LIV. Because the 3 represents the disciplines of the triathlon: running, swimming, and cycling. So we'll talk about the whole triathlon world in another opportunity.
Nancy, it's a pleasure having you as my guest. For my audience, I am so glad you were part of this conversation. And if you're on the verge, you heard Nancy. Until the next time, to Unexpectedly Successful, the podcast.